Hello there.
Hey guys, Josh Lloyd here. What to watch for in the NBA for Wednesday. We've had a couple of games on Wednesday postponed, so what was supposed to be a 10-game day is now an 8-game day. Let's look at those games. The first one of those is the Mavericks and the Hornets. The Mavs' last game was postponed, and of course, he's back. Kristaps ready to go. He will be starting, most likely. He's listed as probable, but I would imagine pretty heavy minutes restrictions. There is no Dwight Powell or Maxi Kleber, so you're going to have James Johnson, making us proud perhaps, and you're going to have Willie Cauley-Stein in that front court mix. But of course, all eyes, from me anyway, are going to be on Porzingis, how he looks, what he does, how they use him, how the minutes are, all that sort of stuff. And of course, Tim Hardaway also is another player to watch because he's been putting up some really big numbers for the Mavericks, especially with them depleted and not having Josh Richardson. Yeah, that's the player I'm looking for. Hardaway, he's been coming off the bench, he's been starting, he's been moving all around, and he's been putting up good numbers. Let's see how he looks. For the Hornets, Devontae Graham played much better last game. Now, his minutes are up, his assists are strong, his steals are pretty good. He can't hit anything most games, but I want to see how he looks and if he can make any single shot at all. While Paul Washington Jr., the defensive numbers is really what's been driving his run. Last game, he didn't have them, so let's see if he can get that back on track and what sort of numbers he can put up and how much of his playing time actually occurs at center. Next up, the Bucks and the Pistons. It's always Punch Bobby Portis. We always want to watch non-blowout scenarios, how much he plays. Because in a blowout, he's going to play 25 minutes. He's also shooting at an astonishing rate on twos. So I want to watch that. I want to watch his finishing around the rim, which is up at like 75% so far this season. So I'm expecting regression there. Well, Brook Lopez is shooting pretty poorly. His minutes have been impressive lately, getting some blocks, but how he looks and how that minutes split works with Portis. For the Pistons, Sadiq Bey, looks like he's getting minutes over Josh Jackson. He doesn't do a huge amount apart from shoot threes. His 2-point percentages is abysmally low. He doesn't really do anything else. But if he can get 30 minutes a night, then maybe can he be a worse Joe Harris? Now, that's not a great thing for fantasy, but it's at least something for us to look at. While Delon Wright should be starting at point guard again. Derrick Rose has struggled, so Wright should get that opportunity to play a lot of minutes there. Get those assists and get some steals in. He played pretty well last time out, and I think he is probably at this point a 12-team league guy. The Nets and the Knicks. Will KD play? That's the big question. It is a back-to-back. He put up an absolute monster against the Nuggets, including 13 assists. Can he back up on the back-to-back? We don't know at this point. And then the other thing, will it be Bruce Brown or Karis LeVert? I think they'll go back to the Shark.
Baby shark,
Brown started on Tuesday and was really good. LeVert played his limited minutes, and after the game, Nash had something to say along the lines of, we have to be really careful of LeVert's minutes with his injury history, so I imagine that Brown will start and LeVert will come off the bench. I also want to watch to see whether DeAndre Jordan plays, because he was a DNP-CD on Tuesday. For the Knicks, RJ Barrett, will he get anything in? His numbers are actually atrocious, the shooting numbers, just any area you're looking at, finishing at the rim, 2-point percentage, 3-point percentage, mid-range shooting, free throw shooting. He's just a bad shooter. So let's watch that and let's see how bad it is. Reggie Bullock is out, Alec Burks is out, so we're going to see more big Austin Rivers minutes, probably some more big Emmanuel Quickley minutes as well. How does Rivers look in that? I'm not convinced that he's a 12-team league player, and I don't think you should be convinced of that either. Next game, Grizzlies and the Wolves. Kyle Anderson, the usage is dropping for him, and his utility in 12-team leagues, I think, is going to fall off pretty soon. But let's see what he can do. He played much better when he was at the 4 versus when he's at the 3 now, alongside Brandon Clark and then DeAnthony Melton, who had 2 really good games and then 1 not-so-good game. Coming off the bench, he needs to push to 24 minutes, I think, to be a useful 12-team league player. And with Bain and Allen in that backcourt rotation or bench backcourt rotation, it is impacting Melton's upside. So how does he look out there compared to those guys? While it does appear that finally Ryan Saunders has put Jared Vanderbilt in as the backup power forward. Now, the next step that he has to make, first of all, the first step he had to make was putting Vanderbilt in as the backup center. Fine. Then he had to make him the backup power forward. He's done that. And the next step is to make him the starting power forward. Now, that's not going to happen straight away, but Vanderbilt should be a 20-minute player in the rotation with the potential to push up to 24 or 25. So I want to watch him, while Anthony Edwards really struggled in the back-to-back last time. Can he do anything apart from score? And can he do that scoring efficiently? Because that has been the real struggle for him, and that's why he really isn't close to being a 12-team league player outside of points leagues at this stage. Next up is the Lakers and the Thunder. Will the Lakers rest anyone? Well, they didn't have to go too hard against the Rockets on Tuesday, so rested some players there. Will LeBron's ankle flare up? He hasn't sat a back-to-back so far. Will Anthony Davis's adductor flare up? He has sat some back-to-backs. So will Marcus Gasol's been playing back-to-backs, no worries at all. What does that mean? And if there are any rest, is Taylor Horton-Tucker the guy that's going to step up now? He didn't really do anything on Tuesday with Wes Matthews out, but he's an option to watch, as is Kyle Kuzma. For the Thunder, it is a back-to-back, so will Al Horford play? And if he doesn't, how excited are we about Isaiah Roby, who did have to leave the court on Tuesday but returned to action? If Horford is out, then Roby becomes a great stream and great DFS play, while MC Hamidou Diallo had another pretty strong scoring night on Tuesday. I still do not believe in him as a long-term high-efficiency scorer, especially if he's only playing 21 or 22 minutes a night. But that's 3 really good games in a row from Hamidou. Let's see what he looks like. He looked pretty good. Not as good in this one as the other couple of games, but pretty good anyway. So there are a couple of things I want to watch for Lakers Thunder, both those teams on a back-to-back. Next game is the Hawks and the Suns. Onyeka Okongwu has been listed as probable. So will we get to see him play? Will they use him? How much do they use him? What does that mean for Collins and Capella? I really want to see Okongwu out there, while there's a possibility that Capella doesn't even play because he's listed as questionable with hand soreness. They wouldn't just throw Okongwu in there immediately, would they? What would they do? They probably put Herter, Reddish, and Hunter as the 2-3-4 and start John Collins. As for Hunter, his shooting, his free throw shooting, his usage, all been really big positives this year. Let's see how he looks, but that lineup's going to be an intriguing one. For the Suns, Monty Williams talking about perhaps lineup changes. Does that mean that Cam Johnson starts over Jay Crowder? I can't really see another direction unless they put Šarić in there at power forward, but he's not a good power forward. He's a backup center. And speaking of centers, can DeAndre Ayton be anything more than a fourth offensive option? He's been pretty putrid on the offensive end. He's rebounding fine. His defense has been okay, but offensively, he's just not there, and I don't think it's really ever going to get back to what it was last year because of how successful the Suns are, and because that means not force-feeding possessions to a center who's not really doing the right things offensively, and that's sort of where we're sitting, I think, at this point with DeAndre Ayton. The Pelicans and the Clippers. Well, in previous games, it had been more minutes for Nickeil Alexander-Walker or more minutes for Jackson Hayes, but now Lonzo Ball is out. I think that's going to mean some pretty big minutes for Alexander-Walker. It's also going to mean probably Josh Hart starts next to Eric Bledsoe, but Alexander-Walker getting the backup minutes, and maybe we get some Kyra Lewis in there as well. So really want to watch how Alexander-Walker looks in a larger role, while Zion Williamson, we always want to focus on that. Can he do anything defensively? Can he do anything apart from get the ball and dunk? Because really, he hasn't been able to do much more than that. For the Clippers, Marcus Morris, will he remain on the bench? I imagine so, but what his minutes and usage looks like is pretty important. And Nick Batum, he's a low usage guy in the starting lineup, but just producing continually across the board. We want to monitor his minutes, how he looks next to the starters, and what his production looks like. I think he is a 12-team league guy, while Marcus Morris is more of a 14-team leaguer. Next one is the Blazers and the Kings. Yusuf Nurkic is questionable, while Damian Lillard is probable. So we want to watch Enes Kanter. If Nurkic doesn't play, do they just start Kanter 27, 28 minutes a night? Do they run Harry Giles out there, or do they do what they did last game and play Covington and Carmelo Anthony with whichever one of those you want to discuss as being the center? One of those guys comes out there and plays at center. So there is some interest there to see what Kanter can do. And as for Covington, the blocks are absolutely non-existent from him this season. Maybe there's an opportunity if Nurkic misses to get back into the mix there, but how can he shoot? Because he's shooting at a horrendous level. That needs to improve. For the Kings, does Marvin Bagley close the game for them? And what does his minutes look like? Is he just going to be mid to low 20s again? I would imagine so. And do they play Hassan Whiteside? Because he got 10 minutes last game. They're trying to shore up some sort of paint presence. He's not a good defender, but he can block shots. We know that. So do they go back to Whiteside for those 10 minutes again? Does that come at the expense of Marvin Bagley? You almost definitely, that's how it's going to come, at that expense. Lastly, let's look at some stream options. We're looking at a couple of Mavericks players in James Johnson and Willie Cauley-Stein, and we better hit the music. Of course, there's no Kleber, there's no Dwight Powell, so Johnson, Cauley-Stein, and a limited Porzingis will get those front court minutes. So we're looking to stream those guys. We're looking at Delon Wright as well as a pretty strong stream option. Patty Beverley from the Clippers and Gary Trent from the Blazers, but we could throw other names in there like an Enes Kanter, or in a deeper league, maybe a Harry Giles. just depending on what goes on with the rotation and with the injury to Yusuf Nurkic, more importantly. And then you're going to have maybe like an Isaiah Roby for the Thunder if Horford is out. He could be a really strong stream option. Maybe it's an Onyeka Okongwu, although I doubt he plays big enough minutes in his first game back for the Hawks. If Capella does happen to sit, then you got Alexander Walker as another stream option with the New Orleans Pelicans. Guys, that'll do it for me. Don't forget subscribe not Apple Podcasts. Well, you can, the regular show on Apple Podcasts, but this is just on YouTube. So YouTube, subscribe, bell, thumbs up, comments. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.